Nice, right?
Woo! Jabba jabba do.
Yeah.
My mouth actually felt that. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
my taste buds all tightened up.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Hi, I'm Shay.
And I'm Hannah, and we're Dinnernational.
Today, we're cooking Iranian food. Iranian food has been one of my favorite foods since growing up. And I love biryanis, kebabs, and things like that. So today we decided to make something completely new. Something that we've never tasted before and something we've never cooked before. I would be making a duck Fesenjan stew, which is a stew that's made of walnuts and pomegranate molasses.
So I'm going to be making Kookoo Sabzi. So think frittata here. This is an herbaceous and eggy kind of omelet tart. It's very good, and I'm serving a yogurt dip on the side called Khiar. I might be butchering that. Let me know in the comments.
And to round this all off, I would be making Tahdig, which is a steamed rice dish. Let's get started. I actually came across this dish in a YouTube video a couple of years ago, and I've been super interested in trying the same because this is quite different from most run-of-the-mill stews or curries or dishes that you see, because this is actually a base of walnuts and pomegranate. Sounds like an unusual combination, doesn't it? But I've been intrigued because this has been a dish that has been perfected over hundreds and thousands of years and has been made so popular, and it still remains a mainstay in most Iranian households. It's fairly common to make this with chicken, but today we are going to do this with duck. We've never really cooked duck before, so this is going to be a twofer. Let's get started. So this is like about a little more than 2 cups of ground walnuts. Whole walnuts that I'm going to ground. Right. Okay, so looks like our walnut has been powdered. This is a pretty coarse consistency, but at the same time it's pretty, finely ground. So don't walk away while you're toasting your walnuts because you don't want it to burn. It'll just make this stew like really bitter. And you'll start to kind of smell the walnuts. You know, like when you toast the nuts, you get like this nice odor. Just medium heat is enough, 2 to 3 minutes, and then just set it aside. Look at that. I mean, the bottom of the pan is kind of glistening. Clearly did not need any oil. The walnut itself releases its own oil. So nice and fragrant. All right, so our walnuts are resting, and in the meantime, let's fry up the duck. The idea is not to cook it completely, but then to just give it like a nice crust. So what I'm going to do over here is I have 4 duck legs over here, skin on. Skin on is good because then it renders up some fat, and you can use that fat for other tasty applications. Duck fat fries, anyone? Try it, it's really good. So I'm just going to heavily season this with like salt and black pepper. That's all you need. You need a decent amount of salt, so I'm just going to do like 2 or 3 pinches of salt and like a little bit of pepper too. I like this thing. It's important to season both sides. I'm gonna fry this skin side down. It should sizzle because if it's not sizzling, it's not hot enough. Now I'm gonna season the second side. We only need to give it like about 2 to 3 minutes per side. Don't go by time, go more by the color. So if it's like nice and seared, then you know it's kind of ready. Okay, some pepper. I only had about 2 tablespoons of oil going in there. First of all, because the duck will release some of its own fat, and the second thing is because this is a non-stick skillet. So you don't really need a lot of oil in there, and you're gonna save the duck fat. So you probably wanna use something that's like more neutral tasting, like I just use vegetable oil. So once it's been about 2 to 5 minutes, I'm gonna flip this and sear the other side. Alright, so my duck is looking nice and seared on both sides, so I'm just gonna turn this off. So it took me about 5 minutes on the first side and about 3 minutes on the second side. It's looking nice and seared now, so I'm just gonna pull it off. Yep, looking good. And I'm just gonna set this aside for a second while I make the rest of this too. Look at that brownie. See how much duck fat I got from that? So this is another vessel that I have going on medium-high heat. I'm just gonna pour like about a little bit of duck fat in there, like about 2 tablespoons-ish. And then this is like one small size onion, half of a large onion, 2 cups of onion that I've chopped into small pieces. So I just have to like brown these. Usually it's like 2 to 3 minutes, but then this time we actually wanted to get like brown, so like about 10 to 12 minutes. Don't skimp on this step because this will actually make a huge difference in the final taste of your dish. Also add like a large pinch of salt in here. Let the onion saute. So my onions have started to brown, so I'm gonna add half a teaspoon of turmeric, a small stick of cinnamon, and grate some nutmeg. We don't want a lot of this. That should do it. Fresh spices are just so much more effective at what they do. I mean, if you're going to the trouble of actually using spices, you may as well use the good kind, right? So I'll let it dry out for another minute or so, and then we're ready to add the rest of the ingredients into our Fesenjan. Now I'm gonna add the water. This is like 3 cups of water. You can always use chicken stock if you have it. I don't have any, and I always prefer to use the bouillon instead. So if you're using bouillon, that's like 3 teaspoons. I'll just give this a quick stir, and then add the pomegranate molasses. So this is the same stuff that we used in our turkey video, so that's why we have some handy. This is pretty tart stuff, so feel free to use a little bit less. Oh, it's actually kind of nice. Kind of like sweet sour. I mean, it'll reduce, so the flavor is gonna deepen. Nice one.
Woo! Yabba dabba do.
Yeah. So give this thing a good mix, you guys. I mean, you don't really want anything to like settle and then burn at the bottom. And of course, this is like walnut, it's a nut, so it's not going to be like completely clear. But the idea is to, you know, like mix it into the stock and the molasses. So like I said, I mean, this thing is fairly customizable. You can make it like sweeter, you can make it more tart. That's pretty much up to you. It's very good. This is going to be a tasty meal. Yeah, but I feel like I would still want to add like about 2 teaspoons of brown sugar. You can always add more molasses if you want to, if you want it more tart. But I have a feeling you probably won't want it more tart than this. And always keep tasting as you're going and adjust according to your own taste, right? It's perfect. So I'm going to put the duck legs back in this tasty broth. So now I'm going to turn down the heat to a bare minimum and let it simmer for 3 to 4 hours. So while my Fesenjan is cooking, I'm going to make a traditional Iranian rice dish called Tahdig. From what I understand, this is almost like a rite of passage for most Iranian cooks, and it takes years and years of practice to perfect this dish. So I'm 100% certain that I'm going to mess this up. But I'm going to give it an honest shot anyway, because that's how you learn. So what I have in front of me is a Dutch oven, and I'm just boiling some water. It does not matter how much water, because we're going to drain this. I'm going to add a very large pinch of salt into this water as it's boiling. So the idea is almost like pasta water. You know how pasta water needs to be like really salty? So that's what we're going for, and we're going to drain this anyway and rinse the rice. So feel free to salt it. While my water is boiling, let me tell you a little bit about Tahdig, or whatever little I know about it. So from what I understand, the idea over here is to get a crispy crust at the bottom, and this crispy crust is achieved in many different ways. Some people use bread, some people use yogurt, some people also use potato. And who doesn't like a little bit of crispy potato with their rice? So that's what we're going to do today. Like they say, a watch pot never boils. I guess I'm going to go take a break, come back when the water boils. Alright, so finally my water is boiling, like properly boiling. So this is some basmati rice that we soaked for like almost an hour, and that was after rinsing. So the idea is to get as much starch out of this as possible. So I'm just gonna boil this. The idea is not to cook it completely, but to par cook it So I'm just gonna cook it 5 minutes until it's al dente. I'll show you. Wow, look at how long-grained my long-grain rice has become. So yeah, as you can see, I mean, I can like kind of smush it, but it's not all the way cooked. Like al dente, you know what I'm talking about. Now listen carefully because this is a critical step. So once the rice was far cooked, what I did was I drained all the water and I rinsed it under cold water to stop it from cooking. This is important to do because you don't want to end up with a bowl full of like mushy, watery rice, right? So this has been rinsed in cold water to stop the cooking, and we're ready for the next steps. So remember this duck fat that we saved earlier? This has so many uses. If you don't have any duck fat ready and you still want to make the tahdig, use some vegetable oil and butter. Equal parts is fine. But when I have duck fat, which is not often, I'm going to use it. So this is on medium-high heat. I'm just going to let this heat up a little bit. And in the meantime, I sliced these potatoes with a mandolin. You can always cut it small using a knife, but just make sure that they're all kind of even. And I rinsed off the extra starch, and I've also patted it dry so that it gets like a nice golden color. So this is starting to heat up a little bit, and I'm gonna put these down in one layer as much as possible. Like I said, I'm fairly certain this is gonna get messed up, but that does not mean I'm not gonna try. So I'm gonna salt this slightly, and then I'm gonna put this rice that's now cooled down into like kind of a pyramid shape. As you can see, I'm kind of patting it down, making it into a nice pyramid shape. Okay, and then I'm gonna make some holes in it, like all the way down. This is hot, guys, so please be careful. Maybe don't use your hands. And I'm gonna stick some butter inside these little holes. And do you remember what I told you about extra flavor? Our extra flavor comes in the form of some saffron water. If you don't know how to make this, go watch my Lebanon video. I explained it in great detail over there. So this lid covered with a kitchen top goes on top. And what this will do is absorb all of the liquid that kind of evaporates and condenses on the top, and will prevent it from falling back down, ruining your layer. So I have done everything the way experts told me to do. Now let's see what happens. I'm just gonna leave this on medium for like about 5 minutes. Then I'm going to turn it down to the lowest heat setting and leave it there for like about 20 to 25 minutes. And so the objective is to get the potatoes cooked as well as nice and brown. See you in a bit. Okay, wish me luck. Oh, it's not so bad, but it was definitely not what I expected it to be. Yeah, I mean, it's not perfect golden on the top, but hey, Tahdig. Those are pretty crispy. Crispy potatoes.
Okay, so we're gonna get started with the Kookoo Sabzi. So I'm sure you can tell by now, this is just a bunch of herbs. Right now, we are going to mix these all together, but I wanted to show you them first. Here's some cilantro, we have green onions, we have flat leaf parsley and dill. And you can kind of alter the quantities depending on what you like. We did about 1.5 cups of cilantro, 1.5 cups of parsley, 1 cup of green onions or scallions, and about 1/2 cup of dill. Maybe a little more, more like 1 cup. So yeah, the main difference between a frittata and this Kookoo Sabzi is a frittata is really egg focused, and this is Sabzi focused, Sabzi meaning herbs. So we're gonna get started. We're gonna mix all this stuff together. First, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of Greek yogurt into our egg mixture. This is 1 tablespoon of all-purpose flour. Plop. Into the egg mixture. This is 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking powder. Not baking soda, you don't want to make that mistake. Okay, and you're gonna mix this together really well. Kind of gonna thicken up a bit because of that baking powder. This has the consistency of maybe an eggnog that you shouldn't drink anymore. This is half a teaspoon of turmeric. Okay, and this is half a teaspoon of cayenne. And this is half a teaspoon of garam masala. Mix it all together. This looks really something. So generally you would use something called rice spice, but we're using the garam masala instead because we didn't have rice spice. But it's the same ingredients for the most part. So I'm gonna take my big bowl and I'm gonna start moving the herbs into the bowl. We have the cilantro. I guess I can just lift this up and kind of scoop because I'm a person and I figure things out. Onions go in, parsley goes in, dill goes in, cutting board goes in, just kidding. Okay, so I decided to take a whisk to this just to make sure that there weren't chunks of the Greek yogurt in there. I want this to be a creamy Kookoo Sabzi. By the way, I've never had this before, but I can imagine what it's gonna taste like. It's gonna be real herbaceous and fresh. I think I'm gonna like it a lot. I'm going to add our walnuts. These are toasted walnuts, about 3/4 cup. This whole meal is kind of walnut focused, huh? Okay. And these are barberries. I've never had them before, but I believe they taste kind of like cranberries. And yeah, mix this together. Make sure all the herbs are coated in that egg. And we're gonna pour this into a non-stick pan and put it on the stove. All right, so I'm gonna put some salt in our herbs before we put it in the pan. So I'm just gonna do, 2 pinches, might be 1 teaspoon, and mix this in. Freshly ground black pepper. Okay, so mix this and dump it in there. Okay, so now I'm gonna reduce the heat to medium-low and cover for 10 minutes. Okay, so we checked on our Kookoo Sabzi. It's not quite done yet. We're gonna give it some more time before we decide to flip it over. You want it to be kind of solid. So we're gonna get started with the Mast, Khiar, which is just involving mixing everything together. There's no cooking or anything. So right here I have 1 cup of Greek yogurt. I'm gonna add a half a cup of diced cucumber in there. We're gonna mix that together. You can use less cucumber if you want, but we like that fresh texture. So nice. And I'm gonna add a little more than a tablespoon of sultanas. Use whatever raisins you have. And this is a fun ingredient. This is 1 teaspoon of rose petals. We got this at a Persian grocery store. I'm just going to crush them kind of with my hands. You want them in smaller pieces. It smells really good. Okay, so sprinkle that in there. If you don't have this, still make the yogurt dip, It's not like make or break, but it's gonna add some really nice floral flavors. And here we have 1 teaspoon of dried mint. This looks really nice already, honestly. It just looks beautiful. We're gonna mix this all together, add a little bit of salt. There's not a lot of yogurt, so don't over salt. Give it a good mix and serve this on the side of your Kookoo Sabzi.
Good luck.
All right, guys, it's time to flip and flip it. And 1, 2, 3. Guys, we got this in 1 piece onto a plate. It looks pretty good, and yeah, we'll cut it up and serve it.
You know what, you guys? This thing is insane. I mean, I'm not even kidding. It's just such a delightful meal. I'm at a loss for words. Have some cheese.
Yes.
So we're eating some feta cheese with some crackers because we did not have any lavash bread. But we have this herb platter, which is like very traditional with a Persian dinner.
Yeah, so each one of these dishes has been kind of like a flavor bomb. It's really, really crazy.
Mm-hmm.
The Kookoo Sabzi is insanely flavorful and delicious. You can taste every herb you put in there. You can pinpoint each one. You can be like, yeah, that's dill. That is dill. And it is very good. I mean, with a little bit of that yogurt on there. And the pomegranate seeds.
I feel like Kookoo Sabzi is definitely something we can pull into like our busy weeknight rotation. I mean, you don't really need anything. It's basically more like a clean out your fridge kind of a thing for us. I mean, I envision myself putting in all these other vegetables that I have, just in there, make it like a beautiful frittata. So flavorful. What do you think about the rice?
The rice, I haven't had it yet. He's been sneaking bites and I haven't, so let me see. This will be a true first experience.
So here's some rice, potato, and some Fesenjan. It's a big bite. Right?
Wow.
I really like the Fesenjan. I really like the rice.
Wow, that is like a celebration. That's amazing.
The crispy potatoes too.
Wow.
It's such a good idea. I cannot believe I've never done this before.
It's really nice. Everything's so tart.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah. And from what I understand, Iranian people do enjoy quite a lot of tart food. Would you like to try some duck?
Yes, I'm ready for the duck.
You got to try the duck. What's the duck like? I've not tried the duck yet.
Because I know my dad will watch this, I will say it's ducking delicious. Because that's probably what he would say.
Yeah, the duck is like really tender. Very nice. I'm sorry, I mean to feed you another bite, but I kind of want this one. The pomegranates, so good. Iranian people know how to cook, you guys.
Yes, we're getting there.
Yeah, we're still learning. But even if average home cooks like us can do this for the very first time, I would highly recommend you to try these recipes yourself.
Yeah.
See you next week.